What's going on, everybody? It's Julio, the Roadside Genius, and today I'm helping you grow your roadside assistance business by talking about business pricing, specifically talking about what I use to price my services out and what you can get away with in the industry. So if you've been in the business for quite some time, you probably already have your pricing figured out, but maybe this will give you some insight in what I've experienced and what you can experience out here if you're running your own service calls and you decide to charge a different rate. So I do have another video about this topic. I made, I think back last year. If you want to check it out, I'll post the link below. The opinion, my opinion kind of remains the same. I just added a little bit more to this video. Plus, it's a highly requested video, so that's why I'm making it again. I want to start this video by telling a story. So this happened not too long ago, right? So picture this, right? You've worked all day. It's 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock. Getting to 3 a.m. in the morning, right? This specific scenario, it was 2 o'clock in the morning and I was headed home. I was done for the night. And this customer called in, said that she needed a lockout, and I was tired. I didn't want to do the job. So in order for me to deter her, I told her, hey, I'll charge you $150 if you want me to come out. Surprise to me, she said, yes, thank goodness somebody answered the phone. You were the first person that answered and actually could help me. Everybody wanted to do it tomorrow, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, great. I'll go help you. But I was surprised that night to find out that I was over there charging $65, $75 for a lockout, and this lady would happily pay $150, right? So with that in mind, we're going to move on into what are the methods that I use to price my business service offerings. So the easiest way and the only way that I use to identify what I should be charging folks is I call the local businesses in the area. So I'll make a list of 3 or 4, 5, 6, 7 businesses who do what I do, and I'll call them and ask them, hey, what are you charging to do this? And at the end of the night, I will have a sheet with business names, business service offerings, and an average price that each one of them charges. And then I'll say, okay, this is the average. I might add 10 on top of that average, so I'm not the cheapest, not the most expensive, and I'm a little bit higher than the average. So that's what I recommend if you guys are trying to figure out what to price your service offerings at, is check the market, call a few folks around, and take the average, and then raise that average a little bit higher, and that should be your service pricing. So if you're asking what that would look like, if my service estimate, right, if the average for me came out at 65 for the area, I'm gonna go 75. If it came out at 85 for the area, I'm gonna go 95, and so on. And the reason you wanna do that is you don't wanna be the cheapest guy, and you wanna fall a little bit above the average, because you're no average Joe. All right, you're a roadside genius, you're prepared, you've got the right tools, and we're going to get into why this makes sense here in just a second. So just a few other things to consider when determining what you should be charging for your business offerings is the time. And time goes 2 ways. It goes the times that you operate, meaning are you working at 3 in the morning or are you just doing it 8 to 5? And then how long does it take you to do those services? You want to consider that when pricing a service out. In addition to that, you want to consider what tools and services you offer that not everybody does, right? I'm going to go into tire changes, for example, right? We know that 90% of people who offer roadside services can go and change a tire, right? But that number lowers dramatically when you ask the question, how many service providers can remove a locking lug nut? How many service providers can remove a strip lug nut? And how many service providers carry their own spare tire release tools as opposed to relying on a customer to have their own, right? So if you're carrying more tools, if you're working longer hours, or if you're driving long distances to get to folks, you may want to increase your service pricing, right? Another reason or another thing you might consider when pricing out your services is what's your overhead? How much fuel are you expending, right? What do you want to give yourself per hour? And how much insurance are you paying for? Both auto and liability insurance you should consider. In addition to that, how long have you been in business? You know, if you're starting out, more than likely you're gonna wanna charge a little less because you're a little unsure of yourself. But once you build some reputation, once you know exactly what to do, right? And I'll give myself as an example because that's where I'm at now, right? Where we can do almost any service anyone calls for. Whether it's a tire change, a tow, a strip lug nut removal, mobile tire, whatever it is, we can handle that. So we can charge a little more because we have the experience and the knowledge to offer a wide range of services. So you also want to consider that. And obviously, you want to consider your competition, right? So if all the company lists you made, you want to consider that. And that's why you take the average. That's how I consider them. And finally, if you're in a large city, right, the population size is something to consider when pricing out your services. If you're in a bigger city, I'm in Indianapolis. Here I charge $75 to $85 a service. Now, Evansville, Indiana, a smaller city, still not a small city, but I charge 50 to 65 bucks there. So those are the things that I recommend you consider whenever you're choosing your product pricing for your business. Now, there's some things I want to get into right now that are kind of typical in the market, but you're only seeing it if you're doing it, right? So like that old lady story, right? I have friends who run ads just like myself, and they have their own customers calling them for services. And there's different ways that those guys go about them with their pricing, right? I have a friend, we're going to name him friend A, and I have a friend, we're going to name him friend B. And these guys operate completely separate businesses, and they run their businesses completely different from one another, right? So client A runs in a big city, right? And he doesn't want to deal with anyone who doesn't have anything less than 200 bucks. And if you don't have 200 bucks to spend, I don't want to come and service you. So he says, I want to, Julio, if somebody calls for 250 bucks, that's the only time I'm going to go out and do a call. So in order for him to move his vehicle and go help a customer, and he does towing, right? If he's going to move that truck, somebody just paid him 250 bucks or more, right? And that's the way he runs his business, and it only benefits him, right? So he's smart for doing that, and I like that. Now, there's nothing wrong with you charging less. I'm not going to get into that because that's where friend B comes into play. Friend B offers a roadside assistance service, and he charges 40 bucks in his area. Now, friend B is very well known, right? He used to go to high school in his area. He played ball at the local college. So he has built a reputation in his area, and now he's using that knowledge of people knowing him to continue growing his business. And that's working out for either party, right? But just so you know, it's completely arbitrary. This guy could probably go here and do the same thing. And this guy could probably go here and do the same thing. They are charging based on what they know about the market. So that's why I said in the beginning that pricing your business service offerings is completely arbitrary to who you are as a business owner and who you want your clientele to be, right? Think about client A, client B. Doesn't move for 250, moves for 40. Sees about 1 or 3 people a day, sees about 10 to 15 people a day. Both running successful businesses. So just to give a quick recap, right? Today we talked about business service pricing, right? How I price my business services is simple. I look at the market around me, call 5 or 6 different companies, get an average, and price myself just a little bit above that average. And things to consider, aside from your location on your prices, the time that it's going to take you to get to a location, the times that you actually operate when nobody else does, the tools that you carry, and the services that you offer should be considered, as well as your overhead. How much are you paying for insurance? How much are you paying for fuel? How much are you paying for parts, equipment, etc.? All of that should be considered. And of course, you can consider your experience. If you know a lot about the industry, you can charge a little bit more. You're going to make a lot of people's life easier, so you can do that. And obviously, you consider your competition. You want to know what everybody's charging, and you don't want to be too far off from the average. And finally, your average city size. If you live in a big city or if you live in a small city, those are some considerations you should take when pricing your services out. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video and it helps you kind of identify what you want to charge your customers in your business. And if you want to grow your business like myself and get phone calls like I did with that lady that night, and like my buddy A and buddy B do, I'm going to post a link below, set a meeting with me, and we can start getting you phone calls as well. So I'm going to keep making these videos, keep steady, and watch for the next video when it rolls out. Thank you. Don't forget to like and subscribe.